Tzedakah, charity, is an essential commandment, mitzvah, for so many reasons that we have learned from the teachings of Tanya. The word tzedakah comes from the word tzedek, meaning righteousness, meaning giving. It is not an act of kindness as much as it is a righteous, appropriate thing to do. Why is it appropriate and to do, and not an act of kindness, even though, of course, it is an act of kindness, no doubt. But the idea of kindness means I'm giving something that's mine. I'm being benevolent by giving it to someone, to someone else. When you say that it is righteousness, it means, hey, it's the right thing to do. It's an obligatory thing to do because it's the right thing to do. Why would it be the right thing to do? It's because, in truth, it's not your money. It's God who gave you the wealth or whatever he gave you, and he only gave it to you in order that you do the right thing with it. And that's a very big struggle to do the right thing when it comes with money. And hence in the word of charity is righteousness. To do the right thing, and the right thing begins with an understanding that it's not my money, it's God who gave it to me, and he only gave it to me in order that I could distribute it in the appropriate right way. And therefore, it's not an act of kindness, it's an obligation. I'm doing the righteous thing. Now, yes, of course, there's a benevolence there. That's in the feeling that we have of giving to someone who is that is in need. So we have compassion and we give as a result. Yes, absolutely. But the root of it is not merely my feelings about it, but it's an act of righteousness. Furthermore, as a result of that, and the great struggle there is, first of all, in making money, and then using that money that I could use it for my own personal benefit, and now give away from that money, it's a huge thing. And therefore, in the Jerusalem Talmud, when it says the word mitzvah, without delineating, modifying which mitzvah it's speaking about, mitzvah stam is a reference to tzedakah, charity. So you really work hard for it. And you work hard for it. And even if you didn't work hard for it, it's something that could nourish you, give you vitality. And what do? You give it to some. You give it away to give vitality elsewhere. That's an amazing thing, amazing feat. And not an easy one, as we see. Not so easy for us to give charity. Maybe we'll give our time, maybe we'll give some of our wisdom, but to give actual money, it's not an easy thing. And as a result, it is something that actually brings redemption and transforms the world and brings Mashiach through the act of giving. And therefore, the Rebbe, for 6 years, every single Sunday, except for holidays, would stand for hours, 4 to 8 hours, and hand out dollars to people. That, of course, people kept that dollar, but they transferred it to another dollar and added to it. The Rebbe gave out dollars in order to encourage tzedakah, charity, because that will bring redemption, and also charity saves us from death, from a bad decree in heaven. Those are some of the qualities about charity. By the way, we're in the middle of a charity campaign, matching campaign that will finish tonight. For those who haven't had the chance and the opportunity to support, you still can at charity.com/chutzpah. And with chutzpah, I mention it. Because that's The Jewish way to live is best with chutzpah. Welcome to Tanya Today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zich and Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Well, we are in the 30th letter, and in the 30th letter, it's about tzedakah. It's about charity. We have spoken about different angles about tzedakah, and in this, we will speak about an interesting angle about tzedakah, about charity. Our sages say, in reference to coming to pray, right, in synagogue, that if someone was accustomed to come to synagogue and one day they didn't come, God acquires after that individual. Where were you today? How come you weren't in shul? How come I didn't hear your prayers? Now, that doesn't mean the person didn't pray, right? You could pray. You could pray individually, right, at home. But if you're accustomed to come to synagogue and you don't come, so God's inquiring, where art thou, right? Now, the Alter Rebbe takes that teaching from the sages, which is in the Talmud, and says that that also applies to, and especially actually applies to the commandment of tzedakah, of charity. Because, after all, charity is equal to all the other mitzvahs. It's so important, the mitzvah of giving. God inquires after an individual. In other words, if you were accustomed to give, and now you didn't give, so God's inquiring, what's going on? Why didn't you give? Now, even though maybe you were accustomed to give, but you didn't do it by a vow, so it's not like, oh, I must give here, because I've given here before. Well, if you've given there before, right, even though you're not obliged to give again, maybe you're going to give elsewhere. But since you were, so God is then inquiring, right? So, as the Alter Rebbe says, nevertheless, even though it's not a vow, if you're a person of valor who has the fear of God within them, then they should continue to give and not reduce what they've been accustomed to give, even if it's challenging times. They shouldn't reduce. Because through your giving, what are you doing? You're reviving those that are without, that are downcast, impoverished, and that they need. And in that time, the Alter Rebbe was collecting for the truly impoverished in the Holy Land. And especially what's impoverished, not only are people impoverished in the Holy Land that he was collecting for, but the presence of God is also impoverished. Sukkah's David HaNefeles, that the Sukkah of David, which is a metaphor for the Holy Temple, has fallen. Meaning that the divine presence of God, which is Malchus of Atzilus, has fallen from its place and needs to be raised up. And how does it get raised up? Through our charitable giving. And therefore, continue to give, says the Alter Rebbe. Furthermore, everything is judged according to the multiplicity of action. What does that mean? In other words, remember, he's collecting here for the Holy Land. And sometimes people made a pledge. They would give once a year, and they give at the end of the year. So the Alter Rebbe says that don't wait till the end of the year to give. Give now, whether you give now, and you should give continuously, in a weekly fashion, a monthly fashion, whatever it is, contribute that, right? What will happen when you give small amounts, it will add up to a large amount, right? By the way, if you give to the campaign, you can give it monthly, a small amount, but it adds up to a large amount in the end, right? As our sages say, Every individual coin given is added up to a great amount, the cheshbon gadol. And what does that mean? As our sages have taught, that when is God great? Havaya, the name Havaya, when is God great? Is when we build up the city of God, which is Malchus, meaning the presence of God, which is, right? And how do we build it up? With a cheshbon, a great reckoning. How do you make a great reckoning? Because you're giving little by little, then it's adding up to a lot. It's like building up the city. Like a city gets built up little by little, right? Can destroy Rome in a day, but to build it is little by little. So by giving charity, little by little, you're building up the city of God, meaning the presence of God, in that the sukkah that has fallen, meaning the holy temple has fallen, meaning the presence of God, the Shekhinah. You're building it up every time you're giving, because you're arousing from God himself, that is the source of life, to radiate down here with his graciousness to give us life, because in the end, we're impoverished. We don't create life. We're not energizing bunnies that have our own source of life. God is the source of our life. So by giving to those who are impoverished, God gives to us that are impoverished, giving us life, literal, because he's the fountainhead of life. He's flowing down from above through the fact that we gave, and is giving us life as we create, giving coin after coin, right? Brick after brick, building up the city, meaning the presence of God, that it become into a great amount through the numerous acts of giving, not just a one-time act of giving, right? Which is amazing. And this will bring ultimately through charity peace. The act of tzedakah will bring peace. Peace implies joining two opposites together. In this context, it means the superior heaven, the greatness of God that is unfathomable, to the extremity of the inferior heaven below, Malchus, and the lowest level of 10 spheres, that will be vested into the world of Bria and Asiya, meaning that will bring the presence of the infinite God into a finite existence of our world to build our world. Wow, powerful. So the 2 points over here in the idea of tzedakah is that God inquires after us, that if we've given, are we still continuing to give? And that through our giving, we actually build up the presence of God as we build a city, right? The presence of God in the city of God, meaning the divine presence. So when we give, it's a fascinating idea on how, continuously giving, it ends up to a cheshbon gadol, to a great amount, and that we create, the presence of God, the home of God, the city of God, through that. Fascinating and beautiful idea. Okay. Any questions? Any comments?
You said at the beginning that tzedakah is equal to all the other mitzvahs, or is as equal as
Equal to all the other mitzvahs. Yeah, that's what.
together? Together.
Yeah. If you put on one side tzedakah and all the other mitzvahs, on the other side, they balance out.
So it's the same description as studying Torah too.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Guess it's equivalent to all in different contexts.
So yeah, we have to understand what's the difference. There's a different. It says about tzitzis too. So we need to, because tzitzis is 600, 8 strings and 5 knots, right? So we need to understand what that means. So it's a yeah. All right. Okay, folks. Amazing. All right. So charity.com. chutzpah. Have chutzpah and give beyond,
US
above and
Canadian
beyond.
dollars accepted.
Yeah, if in the US, you get a US tax receipt. Yeah, in US dollars, and you get a US tax receipt if you're giving in the US. Giving in Canada, you get a Canadian tax receipt. If you're giving elsewhere, you can only give Canadian and US tax receipts. So it's, yeah.